Hello, this is David Hughes from Zero Bubble Model Design. Today what I'm talking about is an issue that several customers have said to me with regards to when they receive their kit. They've emailed me saying, Dave, the bottom and the top hulls do not align lengthwise. So what people have commonly found, and I'm taking a Papa hull here as an example because this is a perfectly good one, is that the bottom hull is wider than the top hull. You're finding here, and you see on this Papa directly pointing into the sun, you can see the lower hull is a little bit wider than the top. And I've had customers say, I don't know how I'm going to fix this. How do you get these two hulls to line up perfectly? So this video is basically an instructional video to show you how I do it and how I get it to work, and the steps you go through to get your two hulls to line up perfectly on a Zero model design. So I utilise on my boats what I call a Z-cut, or is commonly known as a Z-cut. Now, this particular technique is common for model submarines if people are unfamiliar with it. And what it basically means is that the front part of the lower bow is attached to the top, and the rear section of the upper hull is attached to the bottom hull. So it's like a Z shape, a horizontal Z, a very long Z. So what that means is that when the hull slips apart, to take my boat apart, I simply slide it forward and usually pull up. And as you can see, the bow bottom section is attached to the top and the stern upper is attached to the lower. I use a series of lips. So what I do is I create a series of lips that you can see along here and on the other side. And I use the natural springiness of the top hull to spring and clip over the top of the lower hull. So here I thought I would demonstrate further with the stern section of a Delta kit, the spring technique and how I use lips to make sure the top hull fits the bottom. So as you can see here, I have a stern upper section of a Delta 4. And I have a stern lower section of a Delta 4. This is a kit sending to a customer shortly. As you can see, when I hold these two together, you will see quite clearly that the top hull is narrower than the bottom hull. Basically, you have a gap there on either side. Now, this is true of all my models, and you can actually push it down right into that so you can see how much of a disparity there is between the two. This is a part of the moulding process, and I'm still working on it. However, the hull, particularly the top hull, is reasonably springy. There's an amount of spring you can get in that. And certainly with the bottom, there is spring as well. You can use the springiness to your advantage. So what I do here is, I basically create fiberglass strip. And how I mould this is, I take a piece of PVC pipe like this, I cut it in half. That's about an 80 to 90 mil diameter. What I do is I basically take the PVC pipe, I lay down some resin, let that dry, and then I put down a couple of layers of weave, let that dry, and then you literally just, because of the flexibility of PVC, you can ply the strip off, okay? And what that means is that you have a piece of fiberglass with one surface really smooth, the other surface rough, and that's fine. And then what you can do is you can simply cut it into strips. Here is an example of a strip that I moulded earlier. Basically pulled that off and I cut this from that. Now what happens here is, what I've done is I've drawn a line halfway down the length. I've roughed up one surface and I've drilled holes in it. Now what's going to happen is here, I'm going to take the lower hull and I'm going to sand and rough up this surface. Not a lot, just enough to really key the resin into the part here. And then what I do is, once I've resined that up, once I've roughed that up, I put some masking tape over this edge because you're going to have resin dribble down the side. So masking tape, maybe 2 or 3 layers here is a good thing. Roughed up this surface, I then put resin across here. Maybe even a light bit of weave across there as well. Then what I do is I take this piece, and the reason why I've got the holes in there is for the resin on both sides to be able to key and grip to each other. So the line indicates where it will sit. The line sits level. You can make it lower, like so. You can make it higher, it doesn't matter. And I basically have it in there. The resin is squished against the side of the hull and the lip, and it's also oozing out of these holes. Then what I do is I put more resin here, and I put some fiberglass weave over that. I then get 2 ordinary clothesline pegs, and I clamp those down and I leave them to dry. Once you leave that to dry, you repeat the process on the other side. So you have 2 pieces there. One there, one there. Then what you do on your top hull is, you'll notice that there are imperfections. The thickness varies. So I would basically sand that and get it reasonably smooth and try and get it nice and level there, and of course on this side as well. And then what happens is, as soon as that piece is glued in there, to have the hull go down, and ideally this would be clamped in, glued in, I basically bring the hull down, I can click it over there, and with my fingers I pull this wide. I can literally pull that out, and it will ride down on the other side and give you a really nice level, even top and bottom hull registration. That's how I do it. All my hulls are done this way, and it works. As you could see earlier from the pupper, it works really nicely. The springiness of the upper and lower hulls can be used to work for you and produce 2 hulls that want to stay together because they're pulling against each other. So that's how I create the index lip for my bottom and top hull. It works, and I hope it works for you. If you particularly have any more problems with that, certainly get back to me. I'll give you all the technical assistance I can. David Hughes, Zero Bubble Model Design. Thank you.